Hear me clearly, the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not talent. It is not opportunity. It is not luck. It is consistency. Consistency is the bridge. Consistency is the fuel. Consistency is the invisible hand that builds empires, transforms minds, and reshapes destinies. But here's the secret most people never realize true. Consistency is forged in silence. Consistency is the difference maker between those who only dream and those who actually achieve. Many people believe that what separates them from greatness is talent or connections or a stroke of luck. But history proves otherwise. Talent without consistency fades. Opportunity without consistency slips away. Luck without consistency never lasts. What truly creates transformation is showing up every single day, regardless of how you feel, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of whether anyone else notices. Consistency becomes the invisible bridge between desire and destiny. When you force yourself to be consistent, you are doing more than repeating an action. You are training your mind to submit to discipline. The human tendency is to quit when it's uncomfortable, to stop when results seem slow, or to give up when no applause is heard. But forcing yourself to remain consistent breaks that cycle. It rewires the mind to understand that progress is not dependent on feeling motivated, but on choosing commitment over comfort. Each time you stay consistent, you prove to yourself that you are trustworthy, that your word matters, that you can rely on your own discipline. The difference between those who live in mediocrity and those who step into greatness is not found in big leaps, but in small, repetitive actions done over time. One workout won't transform your body, but months of consistency will. One day of studying won't sharpen your mind, but consistent learning creates wisdom. One attempt at discipline won't shift your life, but consistency multiplies its effects until results become undeniable. The greatest victories are not in the grand gestures, but in the small, disciplined steps taken consistently. Consistency also develops resilience. When you keep going despite setbacks, when you continue showing up even after failure, you build an inner strength that cannot be shaken. Every time you force yourself to continue, you teach yourself that obstacles are not the end, they are simply part of the process. This creates a mindset where quitting is no longer an option and success becomes inevitable because you refuse to stop moving forward. Consistency turns challenges into stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. Consistency is also what separates temporary success from lasting impact. Many people can rise quickly, but without consistency, they fall just as fast. Building anything of value requires stability, and stability is the fruit of consistent action. A house without a foundation will collapse, and a dream without consistent effort will dissolve. The only way to make success sustainable is to continue showing up long after the excitement has faded, long after the novelty has worn off, long after others have given up. When you look at nature, even it testifies to the power of consistency. The sun rises every day without fail. The tides shift with perfect regularity. Seasons come and go in their order. None of this happens sporadically. Creation itself is built upon the principle of consistency. And when you align your life with that same principle, you move in harmony with the way success is designed to work. To neglect consistency is to fight against the very rhythm that governs progress. What makes consistency powerful is that it compounds over time. One action by itself may seem small, even insignificant. But when repeated daily, it builds momentum. Just as drops of water can carve stone and steady pressure can move mountains, consistent effort accumulates until the results cannot be denied. Many people fail because they stop too soon. They underestimate how powerful small actions become when they are compounded consistently over weeks, months, and years. Forcing yourself to be consistent also sharpens your focus. When you commit to a repeated action, it eliminates distractions and strengthens clarity. Instead of being scattered in many directions, consistency teaches you to channel your energy toward what matters most. It builds a structure for your life where progress is no longer accidental but intentional. This focus becomes a weapon against procrastination, laziness, and excuses. The disciplined, consistent person always wins against the one who only moves when it feels easy. Every time you stay consistent, you silence the voice of doubt inside you, that inner critic that whispers, you can't, loses its power when your actions prove otherwise day after day. Confidence is not built from empty affirmations. It is forged in the furnace of consistent effort. When you see yourself showing up repeatedly, you no longer need external validation. You know within your own spirit that you can be trusted to do what you said you would do, and that truth strengthens your belief in your future. Consistency is not glamorous. It is not always exciting. Often it is silent, repetitive, and unnoticed. But it is in that silence where true transformation occurs. The world may not see you while you are being consistent, but eventually the fruit of your discipline will be undeniable. Results cannot be hidden, and when they appear, they testify louder than any words ever could. This is why consistency remains the great equalizer. It may take time, but it always delivers its reward. Silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Too often people mistake silence for a lack of confidence, when in reality, it is one of the most powerful strategies a person can develop. Silence allows you to preserve energy, conserve focus, and maintain clarity while others waste their strength on meaningless words. Those who understand the value of silence know that it is not about withholding, but about choosing wisely what deserves your attention and what does not. When you choose silence instead of reacting to negativity, you protect your peace. Arguments, criticism, and doubt are inevitable, but you don't have to feed them with your words. Every time you respond to small-minded comments, you shrink to the level of the people who made them. Silence removes oxygen from the fire of conflict and keeps you above unnecessary battles. It is not about avoiding confrontation, but about choosing battles that are worth your time and energy. Silence also allows your actions to carry more weight. Words can inspire, but actions confirm. When you stay silent and let your consistency speak, there is nothing for others to debate. Results cannot be argued with. Success silences every critic, every doubter, every enemy without you ever having to lift your voice. Silence becomes a shield, and results become your defense. Choosing silence is also a test of self-control. The natural response to opposition is to defend, to explain, to justify. But strength is found in restraint. Resisting the urge to prove yourself to people who do not matter is a sign of maturity and inner power. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, and not every situation requires a response. Silence becomes a discipline, training your spirit to remain steady while others are restless. In silence, you gain clarity. Talking too much often clouds the mind, while quietness creates space for reflection. It is in the silence where vision sharpens, where strategy becomes clear, where direction is received. Great ideas rarely come in chaos, but in stillness. When you allow yourself to remain silent, you open the door to greater wisdom, and you become more sensitive to the guidance that can only be heard when the noise is gone. Silence also protects your energy from being drained. Conversations that add no value, arguments that lead nowhere, and explanations that no one is truly listening to all steal time and focus. Every word has energy, and when you waste words, you waste power. Silence teaches you to invest your energy into building, creating, and advancing instead of scattering it through unnecessary dialogue. The more silent you become, the more powerful your voice becomes when you finally choose to speak. There is also a spiritual depth to silence. In silence, you learn to hear beyond the noise of the world. You become attuned to the voice of truth within, the quiet whisper that directs you toward purpose. Many people miss this because they are too busy talking, too busy explaining, too busy justifying. But when you embrace silence, you tune out the distractions and make space for wisdom that can only be received in stillness. Silence is not about doing nothing. It is about doing more in the unseen, just as the roots of a tree grow deep underground in silence. Your growth often happens where no one else can see. You are building strength, gaining knowledge, and preparing for the moment when your results will surface. People may wonder what you are doing in silence, but when your breakthrough arrives, they will realize you were building all along. Choosing silence also keeps you unpredictable. When people know everything you think, everything you plan, everything you intend to do, they can prepare for you, compete with you, or even sabotage you. But when you remain silent, no one knows your next move. Silence keeps your vision protected until it is ready to be revealed. It is not secrecy born of fear, but wisdom born of strategy. Most importantly, silence teaches you patience. When you don't rush to defend yourself, when you don't feel pressured to announce your every step, you learn to wait for the right moment. That waiting builds endurance, and endurance builds strength. Silence doesn't mean absence, it means preparation. And those who master silence discover that it is not emptiness, but a place of power where the greatest victories are formed long before they are revealed. Every time you force yourself to be consistent, even when it hurts, even when everything in you wants to quit, you are building a foundation that cannot be easily broken. Discipline is not born in moments of excitement. It is forged in the quiet, unseen hours when no one is clapping and no one is watching. The human tendency is to follow feelings, but feelings are unreliable. If you only move when you feel like it, you will never reach your potential. Consistency demands that you move beyond emotion into decision, beyond convenience into commitment. When you continue showing up despite the discomfort, you are rewiring your mind to embrace perseverance. Every action you take becomes a signal to your brain that you are serious, that you are no longer entertaining excuses. This rewiring builds resilience, and resilience is the difference between temporary effort and lasting transformation. Those who give up too soon never discover how close they were to breakthrough, but those who force themselves to stay consistent learn that the reward often arrives right after the hardest test. Consistency is not just about achieving external goals. It is about shaping internal character. Each day of discipline molds you into a person who can be trusted with greater responsibility. If you cannot master yourself in small things, you will never handle greater opportunities. The act of forcing yourself into consistency is not punishment, it is preparation. It strengthens your integrity, sharpens your focus, and proves that your words carry weight. This process is rarely comfortable because comfort does not create growth. Muscles do not strengthen without resistance, and faith does not deepen without testing. Forcing yourself to be consistent is the resistance training of the spirit. It is choosing to endure the temporary strain because you know it produces long-term strength. While others collapse under the weight of inconsistency, you become unshakable because you have trained yourself to persist. The beauty of this discipline is that it compounds. One day of effort may seem small, but when it is repeated over weeks, months, and years, it produces extraordinary results. Just as a river carves its way through rock by consistent flow, your consistent effort carves a path toward your destiny. Success is never the result of one massive action, but of thousands of small, consistent actions that accumulate until the results cannot be ignored. Consistency is also the great equalizer. There will always be people with more talent, more resources, more connections. But talent without consistency fades, resources without consistency are wasted, and connections without consistency are meaningless. The person who commits to showing up every day will eventually surpass those who rely only on talent or luck. Forcing yourself to be consistent ensures that you remain in the game long enough to win. Each act of consistency strengthens your faith in yourself. Doubt begins to fade when your actions align with your vision. You no longer need to convince yourself that you are capable because your consistent track record becomes undeniable proof. This builds a confidence that no external validation can provide. You trust yourself because you have demonstrated day after day that you are dependable. Consistency also silences fear. Fear thrives in hesitation, but when you force yourself to keep moving, even in small steps, fear loses its grip. Every action you take weakens the voice of insecurity because you are proving with evidence that you can endure and that you can progress. Fear cannot survive in an environment of consistent action. The discipline of consistency creates separation. While most people stop and start, move and stall, you continue steadily. That steady movement is what creates distinction. Because over time, the gap between those who quit and those who persist becomes unbridgeable. The difference is not that one had more ability, but that one had more consistency. Ultimately, forcing yourself to be consistent builds trust, not only with yourself, but with others. People respect those who are dependable. Opportunities come to those who have demonstrated stability. Leadership requires it, influence depends on it, and legacy is built upon it. The act of showing up consistently, even when unseen, positions you for greater impact when the time of visibility comes. Understand this clearly: the enemy of your destiny is distraction. Distraction does not always come dressed as something destructive. Most of the time, it shows up as something small, subtle, and seemingly harmless. It is the endless scrolling, the unnecessary conversations, the constant need to explain yourself, the obsession with proving your point. These distractions drain the energy that should be fueling your vision. They rob you of focus, and focus is the lifeblood of progress. Without focus, even the most gifted person will remain stagnant. When you allow yourself to be pulled in every direction, your strength becomes scattered. You may feel busy, but busyness is not the same as productivity. Distraction keeps you moving but never advancing. It keeps you occupied but never fulfilled. It convinces you that you are making progress when in reality you are running in circles. To protect your destiny, you must recognize distraction for what it is: a thief dressed in disguise, stealing your most valuable resources. Your time, your attention, and your discipline. Distraction often comes through people. Some will constantly question your choices, some will criticize your progress, and others will attempt to drag you into arguments that have no purpose. If you fall into the trap of always defending yourself, you waste time trying to convince people who will never support you. You do not need to fight every battle. You do not need to prove yourself to doubters. Your silence is more powerful than your explanation because silence starves distraction and preserves your focus. The truth is, distraction is not just external, it is internal as well. The mind is a battlefield, And thoughts of doubt, fear, and insecurity can become the greatest distractions of all. If you do not discipline your mind, it will wander into places that weaken you. Every time you entertain negative thoughts, you are allowing distraction to steal your focus. Consistency requires mastery over your own thinking because the body follows where the mind leads. A distracted mind will always lead to a distracted life. Distraction also disguises itself as opportunities. Not every open door is meant for you, and not every invitation deserves a yes. Sometimes the most dangerous distractions are the ones that look like progress, but actually pull you away from your true path. The ability to discern between what is essential and what is simply noise is what separates those who achieve their destiny from those who settle for less. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful weapons you have against distraction. The more you value your destiny, the less tolerance you will have for distraction. You cannot build a future while constantly feeding on entertainment that numbs your mind. You cannot achieve greatness while giving in to every impulse. You cannot fulfill your purpose while dividing your attention among meaningless pursuits. Discipline is the act of choosing destiny over distraction again and again until it becomes second nature. When you eliminate distractions, you gain clarity. Your energy becomes concentrated, and concentrated energy is unstoppable. Just as sunlight becomes powerful enough to start a fire when it is focused through a magnifying glass, your life becomes powerful when you direct your attention toward one purpose. Distraction scatters, focus multiplies. Every breakthrough you are waiting for is on the other side of eliminating the distractions that have kept you trapped in cycles of delay. Distraction thrives in noise, but clarity thrives in silence. When you step away from the constant chatter, when you stop feeling the need to announce every move, you remove the hooks that distraction uses to pull you back. Silence protects you from the traps of seeking validation and approval. It allows you to build without interference, to grow without unnecessary commentary, and to progress without the weight of outside opinions. Distraction is also addictive because it gives temporary relief. It is easier to scroll than to build. It is easier to argue than to stay disciplined. It is easier to explain yourself than to remain silent. But that ease is costly. Every moment spent distracted is a moment stolen from your future. The hard choice to stay consistent, to remain silent, to stay focused is always the right choice because it compounds into results that distraction could never deliver. The battle against distraction is daily, and winning it requires intention. You cannot drift into destiny. You must direct yourself into it. That means guarding your mind, guarding your time, and guarding your focus with intensity. It means refusing to let the noise of the world drown out the quiet work that consistency demands. It means recognizing that every moment you protect from distraction is an investment into your destiny, and every moment wasted is a debt you will one day regret. When you force yourself to be consistent, something deeper than habit begins to form, spiritual muscle. Just like the body grows stronger under pressure and resistance, the spirit matures when it is trained to stay committed despite obstacles. Every act of consistency is like lifting a weight. At first, it feels heavy and uncomfortable, but over time, it makes you stronger. This inner strength is not built in moments of ease, but in those times when quitting seems easier than continuing. That's when growth happens. Discipline is born out of repeated choices, not random effort. You cannot expect discipline to appear when you only move once in a while. By showing up daily, even when your emotions tell you otherwise, you are training your soul to align with your purpose. Consistency is not just an external routine, It is the practice of aligning your actions with your commitments. Every day you keep going, you are engraving discipline into your character until it becomes a natural response instead of a forced decision. Faith becomes visible through action, and action becomes powerful when it is consistent. You cannot say you believe in your future while refusing to invest in it daily. Each time you stay consistent, you are turning faith into reality. You are proving that your belief is not empty words, but demonstrated by discipline. Faith without works is dead, but faith with consistent works creates momentum that no obstacle can withstand. Consistency is the purest test of desire. Anyone can be motivated for a day, but only those who are truly committed will continue when the excitement wears off. The difference between wishing and wanting is revealed in consistency. If you really want it, your actions will show it repeatedly, not just once. Desire that is not supported by consistency is only a fantasy, but when backed by daily effort, it becomes destiny. Every time you choose consistency, you are building a reputation with yourself. Your confidence grows because you learn that you can rely on your own word. Self-trust is powerful. When you know you will do what you promised yourself you would do, your belief in your future strengthens. This is why people who lack consistency also lack confidence. Their own spirit doesn't believe them anymore. Consistency repairs that broken trust and gives you inner certainty. Staying consistent in silence also allows space for transformation without interruption. You don't need to broadcast every move. You don't need to announce your progress. True growth doesn't require attention. It requires discipline. When you are silent in your consistency, you protect your focus and remove the temptation of outside validation. The process becomes purer because it is driven by purpose, not applause. Consistency also builds endurance. When you train yourself to keep moving daily, you develop the ability to last longer than challenges. Obstacles that would normally knock you down become hurdles you step over. The ability to endure is not something you are born with. It is developed through repeated commitment. The more consistent you are, the more your endurance grows, and endurance always outlasts difficulty. When you remain consistent, you create habits that carry you when motivation fades. Habits are stronger than feelings. You may not always feel inspired, but your habits will move you forward if they are built on consistency. The reason most people fail is that they never stay consistent long enough to develop habits that make success automatic. Habits are the fruit of consistency, and once they are established, they sustain you through seasons of difficulty. Forcing yourself to stay consistent also prepares you for greater opportunities. If you cannot handle the discipline of small responsibilities, you will not be ready for larger ones. Consistency in the little things positions you to be entrusted with more. Every successful person understands this truth. Before the big stage comes, you must be faithful in the unseen places. Greatness is not built in the spotlight, but in the shadows of consistent effort. Each time you show up with consistency, even in silence, you are laying a foundation that will one day speak louder than any announcement could. The results of your discipline will testify to your effort without you needing to say a word. Silence keeps you humble. Consistency keeps you focused, and together they prepare you for impact that cannot be denied once it is revealed. Think of the seed buried deep in the soil. It does not cry out for attention. It does not announce its presence. It does not demand recognition. It stays hidden, silent, unseen by the world above. Yet in that silence, something powerful is happening. Roots are forming, structure is being built, and unseen growth is taking place. The silence of the seed is not weakness. It is preparation. Just like that seed, your consistency in silence builds a foundation strong enough to hold the weight of the fruit that will one day be visible. When you remain consistent in silence, you are creating power that cannot be denied. You do not need to tell everyone about your discipline because results speak louder than words. People may wonder what you are doing while you remain quiet, but the day will come when your actions reveal the truth. Silence shields you while consistency prepares you. That combination creates breakthroughs that others will have no choice but to recognize. Consistency is the invisible force working behind the scenes, and silence is the cover that protects it. When you work quietly, you reduce distractions, you conserve energy, and you avoid unnecessary resistance. Many people fail because they expose their progress too early, allowing outside opinions to weaken their momentum. But when you stay silent, your consistency grows undisturbed. And when the time is right,